the space race. We think of triumphs, flags on the moon, and celebrated heroes. But that's only half the story. The race to the stars was built on more than just victories. It was built on failures, secrets, and missions that were never fully disclosed. Some were recorded years later, quietly added to the archives. Others were simply labeled as technical anomalies. This isn't about myths or conspiracy theories. This is about system failures, human decisions, and the harsh, unforgiving reality of space. Because space isn't romantic, and it never, ever forgives a mistake. During the Cold War, space wasn't just about scientific discovery. It was about power. It was a display of prestige and ideological superiority. Every launch had to look like a success, because any public failure signaled vulnerability to the other side. For this reason, many problems were minimized. Some missions that ended in disaster were kept entirely out of public awareness. We tend to remember the peaks of history, the glorious moments, but systems aren't truly tested at their peak. They're tested in failure, in the moments when everything goes wrong. And in the early days of space exploration, things went wrong a lot. Let's be clear. The technology of the early space programs was primitive by today's standards. The computers had less processing power than a modern calculator. The sensors were often unreliable. Safety protocols were in their infancy, being written as they went along. A single faulty valve, an incorrect pressure reading, a minor miscalculation in a line of code on Earth. These might be small issues. In space, each one becomes a life or death crisis. Many early missions never even reached orbit. Some rockets lost control just seconds after liftoff, exploding on the launch pad. Others tumbled out of control in the upper atmosphere or failed catastrophically during the fiery heat of re-entry. This isn't a heroic narrative of flawless success. It was a brutal, high-stakes learning phase, paid for with wreckage and risk. Because of the immense pressure to succeed, some of these incidents never made it into the official public history of the time. Certain disastrous launches were vaguely described as unmanned tests gone awry. Others simply vanished from the official statistics, as if they never happened at all. The reason was simple: reputation management. The space race wasn't just an engineering contest. It was an information war. Every success was broadcast to the world. Every risk was carefully controlled and, if possible, concealed. But even when hidden, these system failures left behind critical lessons that would shape the future of spaceflight. It's easy to think of space programs as just machines, rockets, and capsules. But behind every piece of hardware, there are people. Engineers, pilots, analysts, and managers. And history shows us a consistent pattern. When systems fail, the responsibility ultimately shifts to the human element. Critical decisions often have to be made in seconds, with incomplete data and under unimaginable pressure. Sometimes, knowing the risks, people were forced to accept them, hoping for the best. But in space, there's no maybe it will work. It either works or it doesn't. Humans make mistakes, and the unforgiving environment of space reveals those mistakes instantly and with devastating consequences. But here's the crucial part. A failed mission is not the end. In fact, it's often the beginning of real progress. Every malfunction led to stronger safety systems. Every design flaw prompted reinforced engineering. Every human error resulted in clearer, more robust procedures. The space programs of today, the incredibly safe and reliable missions we see now, advanced precisely because of those early failures. The safest missions in history were built on the lessons learned from earlier losses. Each disaster was a costly but invaluable teacher, paving the way for future success. So why were so many of these missions concealed? There are three main reasons. First, political pressure. Neither the US nor the Soviet Union could afford to look weak. Second, technological uncertainty. In the beginning, they didn't always know why something failed, and admitting that was admitting a lack of control. And third, the fear of public reaction. Risks were incredibly high. If every single failure had been publicized immediately, public support could have evaporated, and entire programs might have been canceled. That's why some of these events were only declassified and revealed years, or even decades, later. Today, we read them as history. But at the time, they were national crises, playing out in secret. Hollywood and science fiction have painted a picture of space that is majestic, dramatic, and often romantic. The reality is far more severe. Space is silent. It is cold, and it is completely unforgiving. In this environment, discipline matters more than heroism. Cold, hard calculation matters more than emotion, and reliable systems matter far more than spectacle. Survival in space isn't about grand gestures. It's about meticulous preparation and a deep respect for everything that can go wrong. So, what is the greatest lesson from these unrevealed missions? These hidden chapters of the space race? It's this. Technology can be incredibly powerful. Plans can be detailed down to the last second. But the final decision, the final moment of responsibility, is always human. History is sometimes written not by a triumphant victory, but by the split-second decisions that prevent a disaster. In the end, the space race wasn't just about planting flags or reaching new heights. It was a story of risk, error, and adaptation. These unrevealed missions are not symbols of weakness or shame. They are the evidence of the true cost of progress. Because systems may fall silent, but responsibility never does. History doesn't just remember the view from the summit. It remembers every difficult step and every stumble that was overcome to get there. Space exploration is often seen as a triumph of technology. But what about the human element? The intense psychological pressure on astronauts is immense, and even the most rigorous training can't prepare for every scenario. Early missions were a dance with the unknown, and sometimes things went wrong. But here's the incredible part. Every failure, every near disaster, became a vital lesson. Think of Apollo 13. A potential catastrophe was transformed into a legendary tale of human ingenuity and resilience under extreme pressure. Those astronauts and the team on the ground literally invented solutions on the fly. It's this spirit that defines space travel. Every setback has been a stepping stone, making each subsequent mission safer and pushing humanity further into the cosmos. The story of space isn't just about rockets. It's about the unbreakable human spirit. Thanks for watching. If you found this look into the hidden side of history interesting, be sure to subscribe for more.